Welcome to our very first dev commentary slash making of, whatever you might call it, for this very new game that we're working on.
Yes, we're very excited to show you a glimpse of our project, of our journey, in fact, because this game is about a lot of different iterating and prototyping and stuff.
But who are you anyway? Like, what are we doing here? Who are we, and why are we wasting everyone's time?
We are Maurice and Jonas from TinyRaw. We are an indie studio from Hamburg, Germany. And yeah, we're currently working on this game.
Hello everybody, my name is Kat, aka Cozy Gamer Cat, and I am joining our lovely friends here from TinyRoar today as I work in the marketing department here at Daedalic, and we are publishing the game alongside TinyRoar. So I'm really excited to get this early look at the game, so thank you guys so much for inviting me. And yeah, I'm very just excited to see how the game is going and what we have to look at today.
Yeah, so I'm just to explain who we are and what we do at TinyRaw, and what the project is about. So everything started basically with Daedalic sending us an email. So it was shortly before Christmas 2 years ago. I got an email that was kind of suspicious, where it just said, "Hey, let's do a game together." And I was like, "All right." And this was actually from Daedalic, and then we met up with Jonas and Carsten, and we brainstormed ideas. And they were like, "Hey, you're around for quite some time now, like almost 8 years. So why didn't we work together? We're in the same city, like we're publisher, you're a developer. Sounds like a good fit." And we were like, "Yeah, but what kind of games shall we do?" And they were like, "Yeah, let's keep it iterative and something that you really want to work on." And I founded the company, as I said, in 2015. And our goal was always that not me and my co-CEOs are the ones who are pitching all the ideas and say, "Hey guys, you have to work on this for 2 years now," or whatever. But that people from inside of the studio say, "Hey, I really want to do this kind of game." And what we did, we basically held a battle royale of different game pitches.
It sounds so brutal.
Yeah, it's the opposite of cozy.
It was very exciting. We had every employee could pitch in with the project ideas, and we have a lot of different ideas. And I had an idea for kind of narrative thing about building. It changed also in the pitch, but in the end it was a game about being creative, but also traveling in the world.
Yeah, also the whole question about why do we have building games? Why am I doing this, and what is my personal journey on this, right? Because I remember when you pitched this, what enchanted everyone was that it was a visually stunning pitch, and it had this own charm, but it always posed this question:
normally
why are you doing
3D
this?
artist, so this is my role. Maurice is the project manager on this project, and I'm normally a 3D artist at the company. And yeah, that was so exciting that everybody could pitch in.
It was a cheating.
That's so interesting. So would you say, because that is such a fascinating way to start a game development,
Absolutely,
I think.
yeah.
Is that quite unusual for the industry? Do you think it was difficult to kind of get people on board with doing something so different?
I think it is. Yeah,
for us especially, because normally as a smaller studio, so just to give you an idea, so we're around for 8 years now. The studio was founded by 3 people. 2 of them were best friends, like me and my co-founder Robert, and we always wanted to create the studio where we always wanted to work at, basically, because we worked at other studios in the past and they were always big, and at some point when studios become big, stuff becomes slow and maybe it's not a safe space and whatever, and we want to do the opposite, basically. And everyone that we got in, we always hand select the people that we work with, or they do an internship with us, and we figure out if we vibe, if you want to say it like that. And we really never had this one game that we always wanted to do. So some studios have already this one game, they try to get funds for this, but we wanted to establish a studio, and the goal was always that people would bring in their own ideas to work on stuff they always wanted to work on. But the reality is, in the first few years of the existence of TinyRaw, we worked mostly contracting stuff to keep the company afloat. So it was either us asking people, "Hey, shall we do a game for you?" or "Hey, we have this pitch for you, do you like it?" And most of the time people say no. And here we were given a carte blanche, or how do you say this? So basically, yeah, do whatever you like, but don't be too expensive. And maybe it's important to mention here one factor without it, the game wouldn't be here, is actually the prototype funding. The Game City Hamburg actually is a program that allows you also to hand in pitches, and a jury evaluates if it makes sense, and they give you feedback, and they actually also give you funds to do this. And without it, we wouldn't be here. So thanks a lot to Dennis and his team on this occasion. Hopefully they watch this.
And prototypes, I think, is a good keyword, because the game was like we had a pitch for an idea, and especially for like what we may wanted the players to feel in a way, like what the experience should be, but not really have pitched down the mechanics we wanted to achieve with this. And the game was like a lot of game development is always about prototyping and iterating on ideas, because you maybe have like something very solid on paper, but then when you play it, it doesn't fit that much. So in this game, especially with like the initial pitch, we had a lot of different prototypes. The very first prototype is like around creating islands, and then have like this campfire going around. This was always about building and a journey. We wanted to combine these two things, and in a way about I had this idea about the players create a story, a journey, but not like in the way of they write a story or have story beats, but like how players, like for example in Zelda, create their journey with like how they approach the world and stuff. And at the end of a session they have like, I first discovered this, and then I go around this, and then I climbed that mountain. In a way, I wanted that kind of journey, but in a builder's game. And the first prototype was around islands. Later on we had something around where you placed tiles beside each other, and they combined to create something, and now you walk over this. Was like match free.
Yeah, it felt very mobile-y, so it felt like really like more like a puzzle game, just a puzzle.
Yes, it was too puzzly. Like you see and then after that we had like an approach where the traveler, the little figurine, like walked independent of the player, and you have like to trick or to lock him
to guide him,
to guide him,
attract him
world.
with some attractions. But as you know, like with many AI controlled stuff in games, and I say this as someone who was annoying Jonas and Connie, who's the developer on it.
It was very interesting, but the thing was, we wanted to create a mechanic, or have a mechanic, which was absolutely intuitive. Like you could play it with one mouse click in a way, and players see the game, and with just a few clicks they can like, I understand this, what I have to do. This is like totally naturally what I have to do. And a lot of the prototypes were too complicated in that regard with the playtesting we did.
Yeah, or the AI did just whatever the it wanted.
What you say, like it did totally what we programmed it to do, but it was like the communication was
it's difficult. So, and as you can see, so we actually pitched a feeling, a general sense of what kind of game it could be, but we didn't have like a bottom-up game design approach. So it was super challenging, basically figuring out what we wanted to do.
That's amazing. Like, I think that is very interesting in kind of a modern game industry where we hear a lot about crunch and these very, toxic ways of making games. And not only are you making a cozy game, but from the sounds of it, you did it in a very cozy and long-term way that makes actually a better game in the end, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, and it's not only just because someone on the opposite side of the camera is sitting in front of me with a gun against us, but
which it is,
Daedalic actually gave us this time and the budget to figure this out. Of course, like at some point people expect results, but we naturally want them as well. Like no one in the world wants to release a game where you don't have to feeling, we have figured out what we're doing or whatever. This is what is amazing about having time to prototype, and the team is actually very small. So as we're speaking right now, the team is only 3 people big. Of course, we have not an additional sound designer but the sounds and the score have been composed already. They now need to be put into the game. But it's mostly just 3 people doing this game and only focusing on gameplay and iterating. And then we have like feedback rounds together with the Daedalic, but we also go to like smaller conventions and show people the game. And there again, like this game is very much shaped by how we see people interact with the game, and that's the reason why if you look at the journey where we started with the first mock-up and where we are right now, it's two very different games. And it's also something like for Jonas, who has been like basically the father of this game, like it was a tough challenge, like always tossing your kids away and birthing another one. So
but it was worth it, I think. Like I played prototypes from the last year, like for this interview today, and it was very interesting. There were so many interesting ideas and so many stuff we really liked about them, but you have to think about it and just say, yeah, but it didn't work out at the time, so we moved on. And I think it's for the better in a way.
Yeah, the good thing, you can actually find arguments why stuff did not work. So at our studio,
that's very important.
Like, of course, there's always this feeling of I want it that way, like the Backstreet Boys always said. But there's like a common sense where you're like, yeah, it's not working. And for us, of course, we had this pressure of finally delivering something cool to the Daedalic at some point. But as you mentioned, like we don't do crunch at Tiny Roar, and the Daedalic was super supportive of it, so they never like swung a big, how do you say, like broadsword above our heads and say, yeah, like if you don't do this, man, like we cancel the game. But it's more like, hey, we see the progress and we believe in you. And this has been amazing, basically, to work on a game this way around, instead of having the perfect pitch on paper, going into pre-production and then production and then churn the game out, but rather like, okay, let's see where we go.
Iterating,
yeah, that iterative idea is really interesting, and I'd love to hear more about how you've included playtesters and gamers essentially in the process. I know we're releasing an early access. Is that going to be part of the process of taking feedback and continuing to improve the game?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like it was like from the very beginning, the idea was about early access and about including players. We have many internal playtesting, and Hamburg has like also events like the Indie-Treff, where we showed the game, which was very interesting.
Also on Polaris and PAX.
Polaris last year.
Yeah,
with the very first prototype. And it was very interesting, like the very first prototype with the idea we thought that worked finally, because people had fun. And it's kind of funny how to make fun is really hard in a way.
Who would have thought?
When you're not trying, like one of the things I want with this game is not include any physical violence in a way to move forward. So we had like, for example, the Traveler, which like in this one prototype where we have to train the Traveler in a way. There was also this idea about like he could like fight monsters, but I didn't want them to fight monsters in the world. So but also people have like this notion about like, yeah, when I fight enemies, then I get experience, and doing something other than that, for example, finding ruins or stuff, it's not that directive in a way. That was like the complicated stuff about it. And I forgot my point.
But you still made it clear.
And I still made it clear.
That's a talent.
Okay.
I guess it's really interesting making cozy games in general like this that don't always have kind of a traditional purpose or goal to them, but are very relaxing, and making that entertaining can be really difficult. And I guess the question is, how do you think Wanderful has been doing that in kind of a unique way, and how does it keep you engaged throughout?
Yeah, I just say like Wanderful is the work in progress name here for everyone.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Project.
Yeah, the project. So in general, if you do like cozy games, what cozy games did, like, because they have like a huge uprising, so to say, in the last 2, 3, 4 years, is that you have to, as a game designer or a game developer, have to think different about how you have been taught about games, or how your own experience of making games is, because you have this thing that there's a very clear communication, where Jonas just did the example of, if I kill a monster and it's not too strong, I grow stronger, and if I go towards a monster and it kills me, I was not strong enough, so what do I learn from this? And not failing and not learning by mistakes is harder to do game development side wise, because you have to find ways how to communicate certain things so that people know what they actually should do in this game. While like if you look at Super Mario Brothers, the first level is basically the perfect tutorial. Like your character stands there, you can walk towards the right direction, and then the first enemy comes and you touch it and you die. So you figure out that you need to jump and stuff like this. And here we have to find something similar, like a new language. And also the big question of what is the purpose? People always say, why do I spend time on this game? And I think the beautiful thing about cozy games is that they give you, basically tell you, hey, it's fine if you don't have a goal, you should have a good time. And in the times that we're living now, where everyone is over efficient and we don't have a lot of time at our hands, like creating a game where you have like 2 to 20-minute sessions of a game where you just feel good about yourself is actually really blissful.
We tried something like very early in the game design parts of making a game. One defines pillars for the game, which are like the core essential parts which we don't want to change in the development. And one of the things was like a net positive, we called it like net positive game design, in a way that of course you can like a session ends in a way, but you don't fail. In a way, it's more like about in our game, it's about like getting as far as possible in a way, and like building your high score, and it should feel more about getting far and getting more far, further in the world.
We're not native speakers, by the way. Just saying.
Figure.
If you haven't figured out by now.
But that was one of the things we really wanted to emphasize with the game. It's about like when you start your very first session, it's going to be short, and we want it to be short. So you start another session, then another session after that. But the session should feel rewarding regardless. The feedback was very essentially to make it like interacting with the world should feel very good. Like when you have a new toy, for example, as a kid, and you fumble around with it, and you don't really know what like it has buttons, you can do stuff with it, but the fact to fumble with the toy per se.
You mean like the interaction?
The interaction is so rewarding in a way, and that was like our hook for new players. And then after that, it goes more like into the strategic part, but because in the end, it's very it can be very strategic.
Right. Well, as a cozy game enthusiast myself, I am already hooked. You guys have me. This sounds great.
And you haven't seen anything. That's very good.
I think this would be a great point to maybe jump into the game, and maybe you guys can show me a bit of these amazing controls you're talking about.
Yes, this is our starting screen you see right now. It's all work in progress.
Of course.
Yes.
And so you can randomize your world here. Is that what that button does?
Yes.
Exactly. Like we have one idea was that like how you call your world or your adventures, like the seed for creating like your world, because every seed is unique. Much like
so basically it's magic. So everything, like if I wrote, for example, Emberlands now, this is actually like will get translated into bits and bytes, and we do game development magic, and this decides how your map looks like. So if you actually want to share your adventure with a friend, you can tell them, hey, play this adventure.
Amazing.
And so you can play the exact same adventure with the same randomness. So everyone can enjoy the same. Even streamers can say, hey, play this one, and then we compete in this specific world, and let's see who can get the most points. So,
oh wow, that's amazing. That's I think the options of being able to do kind of almost like speedrunning competitions in a cozy game is so cool.
Healthy competition.
You really haven't heard of that before.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna press the start button now. I hope nothing crashes now, but so I will do the playing, and as Jonas said, like we try to keep the controls as minimal as possible. So most of the stuff is left click and right click. And what you see is work in progress, but I will leave it to Jonas now while I click around
to talk a little bit about the
yeah.
game. Yeah, this is like early alpha prototype. You play this little traveler, which like starts in the middle of the world, and at the start of the game you have nothing. You can just walk around, and you have like this lantern on the bottom right side, which is also on the traveler themselves. And you can now collect some of these embers, these will-o-wisps in a way, and they give you new tiles. And they have also there are different kind of tiles, and with different features. Like in the beginning, they are more simpler, but getting more complicated with other biomes and stuff. And now you can start to build and. This was the part where we like initially saw like this is the game we wanted to make, where you can now build something in the world and you can travel to new parts and collect new tiles to build even further. This is the primary gameplay loop.
And so this Ember system is something that you recently added, right? From this iterative process that you discovered would kind of elevate it?
Yes, you know about this. Yes, the building, like collecting buildings to go as far as possible, that was like the very early thing. We thought like this is the idea, but we needed another system, or we needed like a loose condition, or like an endgame condition. And with the building, with the building alone, you could get stuck, which was the problem. So we thought about different things. For example, that after some time, you have to go like in a time constraint as far as possible and stuff. But we also had this traveler at the core of the game. There was also like a time when the camera was not locked on the camera, and now you saw like you did very sneaky a synergy. You can combine tiles to make synergies, which is something you experience in.
And is that something you kind of have to figure out as the
Yes.
player? Like you kind of have to test and experiment.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
This is basically what Jonas said with like you will probably start the game, it will not get very far. Because similar how Nintendo does it, where they give you enough information to fool around with the game, but without failing so miserable that you get like totally turned off. But also because like our win condition is basically not a clear win condition. You just play a little session of finding out what the world has to offer, and since every world looks a little bit different, there's always something to do in the end. So now I need to be very crafty here. Right. Sorry, but you.
Oh no problem. That were the synergies. There were a time when the camera was free from the character, so you could look anywhere all the time, and you forgot about your character. But we really wanted it to make about the journey of this character, of the traveler for you. So we locked it on the character and was immediately more cozy, which was very interesting for us because it solved a lot of problems. And sometimes it's just like this little tick in the camera component for your game, which was already in there, which solves some, like a few players were ungeduldig. Impatient about how fast they play the game and how much they can build. But now the game is more focused on the traveler. And
that's really interesting, because I think a lot of similar games, that's the complete opposite. There's not usually even a character at all that takes you through it. So what was the decision process like there? Did you think you wanted to add like more of a bit of a story or more of a connection for the player? Why have a main character for this type of game?
That's a very good question, and not like we know why.
but I just to jump in there. So I think like the first thing was to give it more personality. Immediately, and we never wanted the player to feel like God, like or that it is a management game, because as soon as you remove a character and you have this free floating camera, it always becomes very efficient. As Jonas just mentioned, like some playtesters were playing it and like, why is he moving so slow? I want to be over there and he's still there. But we wanted, hey, it's a journey, it's a trip. Relax. That's why like one of the working titles was Wanderful, because it's about taking your time, taking excitement about your movement instead of like, I built the best high scoring game, and it removes everything that is cozy and you just start becoming a competitive gamer.
It's a fine balance with the cozy thing, because the game is a lot about strategy in the end if you want to go really far, but it also has to come in naturally to you. How you build and how to get far in a way, and not about like crunching numbers in the inventory and stuff. Because of that, like all the tiles have descriptions about them, which tell you about also their effects, but not like in a very straightforward way, and more in a way that gives you room to experiment.
It's very playful, right? Because we, like, as you can see also with the art style that Jonas created, it was very important for us that it's charming and playful, and that you remember the game, and that you might take a screenshot and just look at it and say, yeah, I really like this adventure. It was a nice journey, man. And you share it with your friends, and you're like, hey, this was really cool. Do you want to play it as well? But maybe to go into game mechanics just real quick, because something is happening right now. So
I find it so funny that we like taking 2 steps in the game, then talk for 10 minutes about game mechanics, and then another 2 steps.
It's just so fascinating to talk about. That's
It
the
is.
problem.
This whole process is so fascinating and a learning experience for everybody where you have like experience going into a project, and you come out with even more experience.
I also like that we put this window up here where it says like, don't show this to anyone because it's work in progress, so please don't show this video.
No, this is very secretive.
But so maybe to give you a better idea what the gameplay is about. So as you saw, like, we collect these little fires, will-o-wisp, or embers, and we lose them over time.
Which are like the soul of the world. Like, the idea for the world is that it was once upon a time built everywhere, but lost its spark, and now you are wandering it and creating and relive it in a way, collecting the little souls, and which are more like memories of the land, and relive real life.
You've probably seen some content on Twitter or Instagram where people like are visiting abandoned places or whatever. And, like, we as humans, but also in this world, like these creatures, like, we have civilizations, and at some point we move on and we forget about stuff. And it's like this Jonas is very good at transporting melancholy into games ideas.
I really like that part about cozy games, when it's also has this
me too.
melancholic touch.
And as you might have seen, like, our lantern, when we collect stuff, like, it gets more ember, but it's now almost running out of fire. And for us, it's important. Don't worry, no one is going to die. It's not about like, oh, your spirit is over, your endurance is done for, he will just collapse. It's more about, then your journey is over because like you don't have any spark anymore. But as we see, we approached someone here.
A character on the camera.
Yeah.
It has a lot of fire.
Yeah, finally a friend after like just placing builds. Because what you saw, we just placed buildings all the time. So like old relics of these worlds, and there's finally someone. And as you can see, they're offering us again a selection between 2 different objects, but they're also gonna give us a lot of their fire. Tick, 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 tick.
Okay.
We early on in the development process, we wanted to have like small encounters, which are like this very small decisions to get a tile, and also like this big campfires now, these major events to get your a stronger boost, and also give you direction where you want to go in the world, because these little embers are like everywhere, but these fires are more selective around. And one interesting fact is like in a earlier version, there were NPCs standing around by the buildings, and people wanted to interact with them and wanted to go to the characters, which was very interesting, especially in the world, because you're a character, and of course you want to interact with NPCs. And so now we made them stand at these major events, at these to give you an award, because that's something we saw player wanted to do. Sorry, I wanted to see what Maurice was building.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just like already hooked because I want to try to beat the high score here, like what we can do here.
I guess that's the interesting thing, that like everyone plays this slightly differently. So if you're watching someone else play, you can be like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do next.
Yes, no, you can just use this tile and then you turn up there. Yeah, that's very interesting. Like the high score was one of the very first thing we added, which make the game work. So you had like it was immediately clear to a lot of people when there's a high score what is going to happen. But also like this aspect of going very far is something very intrinsic, and that was also like a part we really liked.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's very important that you take a look at this little sheep here that actually act as lawnmowers here. So
that's so cute.
Yeah, in German they're called Rasenmäher, which is...
It doesn't translate at all into any other language, but if you're a German viewer, I hope you like puns, because there is going to be puns in this game. But
classic German puns that can never be translated.
Yeah, and like German humor is very popular.
So another thing, we just saw different biomes. Like we started in the meadow, which is more like this greenish starting area, and now we walk through the water and getting achievements which have no real name right now, but icons.
That's so interesting. So there are going to be lots of different biomes then that you can explore as you progress.
With the beginning of the game there are going to be some, but we also want to expand upon them, and every biome has also like their backstory we thought about, which is not something we want to spoil right now, and which is more like you getting it through the item descriptions, which is more like more low key storytelling.
I love this, and I'm a huge advocate of like cozy games and indie games in general that have like a very minimalist storytelling technique.
Very cool.
Obviously, unpacking has been probably the biggest example of that.
I love that.
Where you have items that can build a story somehow. So that's going to be very fascinating. I can't wait to explore all the biomes and see how that story unfolds. But
so here it again, like with everything that the game offers, like we want to gradually, how do you say this? Like over time, we're going to introduce more and more elements, like story, more gameplay, and all this stuff. So we already have ideas, and of course developers have plenty of ideas, but where you will be able to learn more about these worlds by introducing a new biome, and suddenly something that has been teased before will be presented to you, and you're like, holy crap, like they planned on this. So like Jonas created, like for each biome there's a civilization that has been forgotten and that left over some stuff, so that you will learn more about the world, but without us delivering you a wall of text or like maybe books in Skyrim where you're like, oh, okay, I need to read 50 pages now. And also like how I always like to call this type of game is like headcanon the game. So we'll give you enough story where you can think about your own ideas, what happened in this world and why it is like this. So we don't to force feed you our ideas how this game is.
I have to say it's getting harder.
You don't ruin my run, man. I have an idea here. Wait.
Yeah, like the farther you go, the harder it gets, of course.
Of course.
And right now there are very, very little tiles.
You see this? Oh no, it's too far away.
Can you click on the lantern?
Oh wait, yeah. But let me just build something first, and then we do this before, like, as a last-ditch effort. Wait, I collect this first. So, and something that we mentioned before was also the synergies. So, as you can see, some tiles on their own might be cool and look fancy, but if you actually combine them, they will have a bigger effect. And yes, we are working on better communication on this, but you can already see the hut being very happy about getting a friend. Cool. But there will be more of this cha-ching. So, and now we're almost running out, and now let me see if we implemented the feature already. Let's see. Oh yeah, so
you can use the lantern to make light from itself, but it costs you like a lot of amber. So
I see. Okay, so that clears the trees and things. Interesting.
Yeah, it's more less economic than using tiles.
Yeah, but as you just saw, that since we're like, does this work already? Because this is how we did the development of this game. Like, we're figuring stuff out, and we give it to our coders, Dennis and Connie, and they're implemented, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, this works, and this doesn't. But as you can see, we're running out, and now we're gonna go into game over, and like.
So what happens at this point? I guess.
No.
So you gotten game over. What happens next? Do you restart? Can you continue some way? How does it work?
Yes, there's going to be a better HUD, like.
This is awesome, man. Just look at this particle.
Yeah, we like that there's that the game is telling you like different stuff you accomplished in your run, which is like the story you tell in a way. The fantasy we have for the endings that like now the traveler's like, oof, that was a long day, and sits down at a campfire and has like a very long nap or something like this, and now his session ends. And what we want to encourage right now is to you can replay like this land in a way to get a better score, but also the icons, but also you can also go back to the main menu and start a whole new adventure. Like, because your very first sessions, like, we knew what we do, but when we see new players approach this game, and we tell deliberately not that much about the game, or about how to play it at the beginning, so you get the shorter sessions. Then you can replay it and now I know what I want to do and what I can do and stuff.
So in the end, like the NPCs that you're finding, and now I'm just like throwing this in also as headcanon, maybe these NPCs that you find on the campfires, maybe this is like another player or your old character just resting there and telling you about their journeys. And so it's all a loop, like everything is connected, and there's never like a bad game over for anyone in this world. So what I did now is just click restart, and what I can do is play the exact same route and try to be better, or like go into a completely different direction. So
right, of course.
So you can, like, with the same seed, you can have endless hours of fun.
Trademark.
But you could also say, oh, I really hated this and I want to start differently, and you will just figure out a new seed, or you'll ask a friend like, hey, which seeds was your favorite? Can you give me a hint?
And are there any plans to make like something like a creative mode that you see in a lot of these types of games, where people can kind of just sandbox adventure?
Oh yeah, one of the ideas is that at the end of your adventure, when like the high score part is finished, that you can just get up and walk through the world, like
amazing.
No resources around in a way.
Admire your creation.
Admire your creation.
Yeah,
which is one of the things like which is I really like this part that people are oftentimes they build more strategy in mind, not about like creating something beautiful or something in this way, but in the end they are often very proud about what they created and the world they created, and this is something we want to put emphasis in the future.
Absolutely. So do you envision kind of, there's like a million different ways to play this game essentially. You can be more of the creative side, you can be a very strategic gamer. Is it kind of for anyone? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, as long as you have fun. This is basically the cliche pitch, but it's basically a toolbox where you can mess around. Like if you look at Minecraft, you can try to play very efficient. You build your first home, so you can gather your materials very quick to mine for diamonds to build a portal to the nether world, and or you could just mess around and build like a Star Destroyer from Star Wars if you want to.
In Minecraft, not in our game.
Not in the real world and not in our game.
But I hope there are some players who playing more creatively. Like we had some playtesters who were more into that thing. Like in the end, when people like play a lot of this game, they go really into the systems and want to go as far as possible. But especially like with the graphics and with the art style, and so we want to create something where people have just fun placing stuff.
Cool.
Oh no, I'm running out of embers. Yeah, I screwed up. Ka-ching. Yeah, and as you see, so the other direction I took was not that amazing. But yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been really fascinating, you guys showing me the game. So obviously we know early access is coming soon. What do you expect to kind of be next steps for the project?
So, like, of course, like as developers, you always want to cram in as much features as possible before going into early access, because then you can show everyone, yeah, see what we thought about, because everyone's going to be in the comment section like, oh, why didn't you put this in the game or that? But we're actually like trying to rip everything out that is too experimental right now and just focus on the main core loop. But we have plenty of stuff planned. I don't want to Peter Molyneux stuff here right now, but as you can see in the game over card, there's something about quests mentioned here. So there is actually an element here where you might find something in the world that you need to solve on your adventure instead of just walking around, like optional quests. Like, and something that we want to do is like over time always introduce a new biome, and each time we introduce a new biome, this means plenty of new tiles, plenty of new combinations, because something that we didn't show here is that you might bring a certain tile from one biome to the other, and it might have a strange effect that you might have to figure out. And so this is something that we can already promise, that we already have plans for more biomes, but also game features. Might it be transportation or like pets. Of course, we would love to have something like that in the game. But we have to see, and it's something where we want to communicate with the community as well, because the cool thing about early access is that you can go into a dialogue. It's not us having to guess if people like this. We could actually pitch them two ideas and they can choose, similar how they always can choose between two tiles. Maybe they can choose between two different features.
Yeah, I suppose it's going to be an interesting early access release, because we're in fact encouraging you to give us as much feedback as possible so we can continue this iterative process, which is really fascinating. And it's cool that the players will get to almost have an impact on the game that you guys are making in a really cool way.
Absolutely. We have a vision for this game where we want to... can you go to the flower biome and maybe show some of the synergies in the flower?
I just collect some stuff here.
So every biome has like their own... mechanics in a way. Well, every biome is about one mechanic.
Oh yeah, that's maybe that's something that we can dive into real quick, that everything plays a little bit different as well.
Yes. What I wanted to say about early access, like we have a strong vision about this game, what we wanted like to feel, while the mechanics are always iterative. But it will be really interesting when what players are like, which direction they want the game like to head. Like if there's more like a pull into the creative side, maybe we first implement more like creative tools, while when there's more into the strategic side, maybe we put a lot more more emphasis the first time on the balancing, on new tiles, which go more into that direction. I think it's going to be like a balance of those stuff. I think we going to have a crowd which has both types of player.
And I think something that we can announce here is that there's going to be customization for your character. As every good cozy game, of course, we like looking good, walking around the world looking fancy, and you can do this.
At first there's like also not, I say like a lot. Right now there's not like a big loop out of the sessions. Like the game is very rogue, like in a way, but we also want to have a progression system outside of the sessions themselves for like upgrades or achievements or something like this. And this is also something we will look into in the future. Like we cannot promise now something, but
it's like if enough people buy the game, like I would say like this sounds super like marketing style saying, but of course like the more people enjoy this game, the more we can do with it. And we would love to do more with this game, because we are working on this game for quite a while now, but as I said, the team is super small and we're just like, it just takes time. And but anything could happen here, and this is the general thing how this project started, like with the Daedalic approaching us, no one having a clue what we should do together, then figuring it out along the way. And this is something that we want to continue with until the production cycle ends eventually, like when we're done, when we did the 3.0 update. At some point we say, hey guys, we will not do anything more with this. But as long as people support this, there are plenty of ideas. What you maybe saw is also we have like a day and night cycle, which is not. It started out as something very aesthetically, and we liked how it looked, and because Jonas is a very visual guy, so. But we thought, of course, like, okay, what can we do with this? So, do some tiles react different during night, or is this something that you can explore at night that is different during the day? So. There's plenty of stuff that we cut from the game for now for the initial release that might make its comeback as soon as we figured out how to make it impactful and polished enough.
Of course. So in just the same way that the dev process has been very flexible and iterative, so I guess will be the release. The launch of the game will continue to update and continue to flush out as it's out, which is very exciting.
Yeah. And so as we were speaking about like mechanics, so Jonas wanted me to go into this so-called flower biome, but it actually has a way cooler name, right? Like,
well, it's the biome of the pathologists, which are scientists who really, really love flowers and have their whole science ways built around flower machines and building up flowers.
Oh, interesting.
And as you can see...
I can't wait to get into the lore of each biome.
Yeah, so as you can already see, we have like already a machine built from them. But what we can do is we can actually attach something there. Like, which one should I choose? Like the fertilizer, maybe?
I think it's going to make like... What says the booster?
It's gonna be... just make everything bigger.
But fertilizer also.
Yeah. Okay, we take the booster because it sounds cooler. So as you can see now, as we selected this, everything is happy to get this, and this is what we mentioned before. So in the flower biome, there's always this very basic tile, but you will find a lot of different kind of boosters that enhance your already placed tiles. So this is something that you need to figure out while playing is, okay, how do I make the most of my already placed tiles? And as you can see here, if I place it next to this one, it boosted this immensely. Like there's no other thing that boosted so much. And
yeah, but when you place it like in a better way,
I'm sorry,
you can discover a very big area and get a lot of new
I
tiles.
see.
Yes, we have like this very special tile, which you get from a biome, from an event. We not like really want to spoil right now, but when you place like this offspring somewhere in the world, and you can place it, I think, anywhere. Yes, I think like on the cliffside is a good idea. You see that it's going to transform the world, and in an interesting way.
Interesting eyeball looking things.
And this biome is about like changing the environment and transform it, because it's like this experiment which is growing, which is the idea behind it.
So I guess there's going to be lots for people to uncover. That's kind of a mystery when you first start.
We hope so.
That's
yes.
Very interesting.
In the beginning, it's like the game itself. We figured out in playtesting sessions. Very interesting. But after that, we really want to have like the secrets.
That's so cool.
And like every encounter, like every amber flame, encounter on this new biome, like spawns like these biome tiles, and you can really like make a habit on transforming the world. But you can only place those on the biome itself. Yeah.
And something that you will hear in the final game, and maybe not in this video, is that actually the music that has been crafted for this game adapts to the biomes that you're placing. So, and then, of course, everyone is saying this about their own music, but we were super proud about the score because it's really soothing, and like you can create your own musical landscape, basically. So, matching to what you see, you will hear something very different and very distinctive. And this is going to be very interesting with this biome, what you hear.
Oh, absolutely, yes. It has like this 70s, 60s sci-fi quirky vibes in a way. Our sound designers have made like a very cool system about a dynamic music system which changes with the biomes and also with day-night and also how far you're currently zoomed on a character. It's very, very cool.
So it's probably safe to assume, like most cozy games, that the soundtrack and art style are really important in this game.
Yes.
Yeah, we think so too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think
that's so interesting.
Yeah. Or during the development, like one of the sound designers made a 30-minute relaxing remix of the soundtrack, which was very cool to work with.
Oh, cool.
Making assets on the game while hearing like the soundtrack of the game.
So nice.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else in the gameplay you guys wanted to show? Or should I kind of do a little conclusion here?
Yeah, I think you can wrap it up. I don't know if you have like something specific that we want to show.
No, not
we already
exactly.
showed them,
Like, yeah, in the water biome, it's a lot about small train-like areas and less about how do you say it? About Fläche, about.
It's not about covering a lot of ground in a circular
yes.
way, but more about like
Gotcha.
combine. Like internally, we call this the Tetris biome a lot of times because it's a lot about matching tiles in a smart. Oh, not so smart way.
Not so smart.
Yeah. But I have my torch. My torch. How do you call it? My lantern. So don't worry about this. Yeah.
Amazing. Julius is going to have the high score on his laptop now. Okay, let me just double check I don't have any other questions that I didn't cover. Oh, yeah. I guess we kind of touched on this before, but obviously being a cozy game, is there anything like enemies or threats that people will be experiencing during the game?
Not exactly in a common way. Like,
It's very suspicious. Like it sounds ominous. Like
I kind of want to say too much about the types of tiles and encounters in the future because we're currently like thinking about ideas. But I think not in a way where when people think about threats in a video game, like there's not something attacking you or something like this.
No jump scares.
No jump scares. When there's going to be a troll, it's about like interacting with the troll or something like this. Or maybe as a tile, you place like this huge troll in the forest and it's like snoring or something like this.
Yeah, or if there's going
That
to be
sounds so
conflict, it's about like how to solve a conflict and not by defeating someone, but more like find out why they are grumpy and why they're blocking a road.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you both so much for showing me the game. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. This looks great. I think we're expecting a demo that should be out soon for people to try.
Yes.
So if you guys haven't yet, definitely make sure to check that out over on Steam. And of course, our early access should be arriving soon for you all to start helping us with this iterative process.
And then until then, you can wishlist this game. It sounds like press like, subscribe. It's for game developers. It's basically exactly the same. Please just wishlist this. It's super important
It's
to get
our
seen.
lifeblood.
Yeah.
Wishlists are our money.
Every wishlist that we get like makes Jonas even more handsome. So please,
There you
more
go.
wishlist.
Amazing. So yes, like we said, definitely make sure to check us out on Steam and wishlist the game and keep an eye out for demos and our early access release. Is there anything else you guys wanted to say before we sign off?
We are very exciting to share this with you, especially like the process, which is it's very exciting to speak that's open about like the development process, and I think we will continue this like in early access, and I really look forward to the creations of our players, like to the journeys, and it's gonna be very cool.
And I can just say thank you and like to everyone who helped us be at this point as a studio where we are, like also now like with the Daedalic publishing this, Game City prototype funding, and also remember developers are your friends. Like let's work together on a cool game so you have lots of fun playing this.
Amazing. In the spirit of that, if you guys have any questions or you have some comments on the game that you saw today, definitely let us know down in the comments or on social media. We'd love to hear from you. But thank you both so much, and I can't wait to see how the game progresses. But yeah, that's it for us today. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.